we go. I decided that I should make this video a little bit late, just like a psychedelic experience. They always seem to take a little bit longer to kick in than you think. And so I decided I would, as usual, make my video a little bit later than usual. But it's time to talk about psychedelics, and I'm not going to hold back on this one. So if anybody has any specific questions about any type of psychedelic substance, let me know. But first off, this video is intended really for adults, and hopefully people will respect that. But I know that there is a chance that there are youth watching this, in which case, turn this shit off, kid. Go out and play in the sprinkler. Um, I have a long, fascinating history with psychedelic substances. And when it comes to things like DMT, psilocybin, LSD, it's a topic that not everybody is interested in, but that enough people are to where I feel like these substances could potentially help us through some really hard times. And, you know, I don't know. It's hard to even talk about these things because it makes me feel awkward. And that's why I haven't even really talked about this shit in a long time. I remember when I was a kid, I was fascinated with LSD. Like when I was 16 years old, my friend came home and he said, "Oh, my friend gave me this for my birthday." It was a quarter sheet of pink blotter. And we didn't know anything about LSD at the time. Mind you, this was 1991, I believe. And if you're not familiar, 1990s were like this resurgence of LSD. There was a huge amount. There have been several documentaries made about it, but um, and even a more humorous approach to this is to look at the Grateful Dead and how it was just like a trail of acid following Dead shows all through the 90s and 80s and 70s, 60s. But the experience was obviously one that people benefited from. It's funny how the hippie culture is made fun of. You know, all the people who came around during the 60s and, peace and love, bro, and how all the hippies are completely dissed, made fun of. And meanwhile, they're the only ones who are really preaching understanding, tolerance, and seem to be happy people, right? But at the same time, psychedelics have also been seen in darker circles. Think of Charles Manson. And even, I've got, let's see, what was it? Back in the early 1900s, you had Aleister Crowley, who loved psychedelics. So it's not, I don't believe that psychedelics make a better world or make a better person. I want to make that clear. I think that they give you a glimpse into who you really are. And because of this, I think that most people are good people, but they don't give themselves a chance to know themselves. Therefore, psychedelics can help you see that side in yourself that wants to give a shit about others, that wants to have empathy for the world, and to just live life for what it is, to laugh at yourself. It's a riddle, a time loop, a riddle of ideas. The psychedelics bounce around in your head. And my very earliest lessons, and I've said this before, there's so many funny trip reports about people who have told their stories about going to parties and having these crazy trips where they wandered around town. I've been watching these animated clips, and I was just watching this one from Duncan Trussell talking about when he took too much ketamine. And the stories are funny, they're interesting, but there was a lot of irresponsibility in the psychedelic world. They're not talking about the things that they should be talking about. In other words, one of the videos that they showed on these animated clips was a guy saying, "Oh yeah, this my buddy bought these mushrooms. He said he got them at the store, and I took a whole one, and this happened." But they don't point out that it was Amanita muscaria. Amanita muscaria has, muscarine or muscimol in it, which is totally different from psilocybin or psilocin. They act differently. It's more of an, deliriant on the mind, and it can be toxic in high doses. So, pointing out that there is an important factor here when we're talking about these substances, which is safety. However, when it comes to psilocybin or LSD, the worst I've seen is people going a little bit psychotic for a while. In other words, you can't really overdose on mushrooms, but you can definitely take too many. And once you do take too many and you've seen a person who has forgot who they were for a while, it's kind of scary. But let me just point this out. Psychedelic drugs like psilocybin shut down the frontal cortex in a way that allows the rest of your brain to communicate. And this isn't just some hippy dippy bullshit like, oh, hey man, it allows the brain to talk. It's an actual scientifically studied fact. There are more neural connections between different regions that ordinarily don't connect because you've shut down the frontal cortex, the reasoning part. And this is why, as somebody pointed out, you can sit there and figure out the answers to the universe on acid, but can't change your clothes. It's absolutely true. You can't even find your stuff. Like your hands aren't working properly. You're just like confused. But when you're thinking, your brain is clear. And one other thing I'd like to point out about psychedelics is anybody who's seen a person who's tripping really hard, have you ever noticed their voice slurring or them not being able to vocalize? If you're really high, you can get to that point, but even if you're tripping balls, your voice is clear, concise, and crisp. Often I have the most clear thoughts when I take mushrooms. So why don't I take them all the time? I think that the point here is that, and I wanted to make this clear, I made a video today about this, and it's like 35 minutes long, but it turned into two videos because of the way my camera works, and I'm lazy and I haven't edited it together, honest. And I might not. But to point out the same thing here, a psychedelic, there's a lot of talk about destroying the ego. And I'll hear this over and over in psychedelic forums and videos, like, it allowed me to see my ego as bullshit. This is important, but at a certain point, people start to abandon who they are. In other words, a society that is homogenized, where everybody's the same, is not a society. We need different people with different ideas. In other words, we celebrate differences in culture, but when it comes to psychedelics, we talk about being all one, or how we're all the same and we shouldn't judge each other. That's complete bullshit. All that's fabricated nonsense. All of that hippy dippy spiritual bullshit that I learned when I was a kid, that I thought, yeah, bro, peace and love, it's nonsense. It means nothing. Just like talking about evil means nothing. What is evil to one person when it comes to, say, religion could be completely different than another. But there are certain things we agree with, and they're very simple. Don't fuck with other people and be a good person. I mean, like, George Carlin broke it down pretty easily. The Ten Commandments can be three. What is it? Don't be a dick, don't steal, and don't lie. Something like that. And life is really simple that way. And when you see that reality, when you're taking psychedelics, it's like you can see things for what they really are. But you're also left alone with a group of people who also see that, but trying to convey that to a person who's never taken them, they just think you're delusional. We've been convinced for so long that, these things just make you, see invisible things and hallucinate. You don't see people and invisible things that don't exist when you're taking LSD. I mean, huge doses are different, but it's not like it's described. Nothing can be described. Even a person who's drank alcohol, who's never taken psychedelics. Imagine trying to explain to a person who's never drank alcohol what it's like. Well, you're kind of dizzy. Yeah, that's true. Now multiply that by 100 or 1,000. Well, you see things, but you don't really see things. I'd like to give a little bit of advice on tripping if you're going to take psychedelics. Have a plan. Don't be an idiot. Don't go out to a rave or a concert or something and take your first dose while you're standing in a crowd of people sweating and swaying to music, or in the city going, shopping or something. People don't think these things through. And when you listen to some of the cautionary tales, Fortunately, we have YouTube videos now with people who can tell you their experiences. When I was a kid, we didn't have shit. We had people telling us that, oh, there's strychnine in your acid. We literally believed there was rat poison in our acid if we got lockjaw or felt a little bit anxious. The reality is that anxiety comes with a lot of acid. It's the experience, and it's intense. I mean, we took large doses. I didn't realize at the time because the acid was so strong. Now, when I was younger, I have many war stories I'd love to share. You know, going into the train tunnel to party and then seeing the cops come in and raid this. We used to burn pallets in this train tunnel. I should say the older kids would burn pallets. We were like 16. They were like, 18, 19, 20. So we'd go to the train bridge and party, and people would go underneath right in the middle. There was a cement block that was about 20 feet wide by like 10 feet wide, where the center of the trestle, where the metal sat on the bridge. And, trains would drive by and we'd trip and we'd go hang out on the bridge. Totally irresponsible. Do not do this. And one night we're like, well, let's go down to the tunnel, see what's going on. The tunnel hadn't been used in a long time. It is now used by the Willamette trolley, which goes from Portland to like West Lynn, I think now. But at the time, there was a photo mat right there, which, if you don't know what a photo mat was, all Gen Xers should know that one. Um, we would walk down the tracks, go to the tunnel, and party. And the tunnel went in a curve, and in the middle, people would they would drive their pickups in and dump all the pallets out. So one night we walked in there and everybody was having this huge party. The pallets were piled high. There was a fucking fire to the ceiling. It was a huge tunnel. And all of a sudden we see sirens coming and everybody's like, cops coming in from one end. So we all run out the other end and we swing around and we climb up to the very top through the bushes in the middle in pitch black to the top of the tunnel. And then we wait and we look down there and we're like huddling, looking down the tunnel. And I see the sirens or the flashing lights. And so we waited and we sat there and just kind of laughed. We're like, cops would never know we're here. We joked around for a while. Then I kept looking and looking. An hour had passed and I looked down and I kept seeing these flashing lights. But it was really hard because it was way back in the tunnel. And finally, I was like, there is no way they could still be down there. So we all came back down and we walked through the tunnel. It was totally gone. I mean, everybody had been cleared out. The cops had come, but um, they must have turned around in the tunnel rather than coming out the other end. Probably because it was Lake Oswego on one side and Portland on the other. But it was interesting because I remember saying, you see things when you're tripping that aren't there, but it's not like you're seeing physical objects. You are seeing situations. You are seeing ideas. You're seeing colors as sounds and sounds as colors, and you're hearing things that aren't there. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting experience. And I know that I'm lumping LSD together with psilocybin. I'm trying not to here because it's important to distinguish the two. Psilocybin or psychedelic mushrooms are round, and LSD is square. I don't know how else to define it. I've kind of had this like maybe that mushrooms are smooth and LSD is jagged. It's kind of a joke I have with people. Like there's no way to define the difference except for the fact that after you've had a mushroom trip, 5 hours or so, you can usually go to sleep. Whereas LSD, even when you're ready to go to bed, you tend to stay up really late. So you better be in for the long haul. But the experience can be very intense. I feel like I can function more on LSD, but I'm kind of scared of mushrooms these days, honestly, with good reason. I mean, I've taken up to 7 grams, which is a quarter ounce, of really strong psychedelic mushrooms at one time with my friend under the stars at Mount Adams. If you're out there, traveler, listening, I was with him. Damn it. Just keep this like fruit fly flying around in here. I'm sitting in my office, but it's hot and it's 102 degrees outside right now. I don't like it. I'm making the best of it by staying hydrated with beer. So before I go further, I want to stop and acknowledge all of you. I want to say thanks for watching and go back through my comments here and see who's watching. Menthol's the first comment. Holy shit. Good to see you, brother. If you're still here, right on, bro. Natural Daily Living. Just took a pinch. It's been helping me be on better than anything. Nice. Much love from Ohio. Good to see you, Natural Daily Living. Aaron D. Almighty Ohm. Awake Chuffed. Hello, Troy Stewart. And Theogens, absolutely. And Fish. Yeah, Fish is coming up out here. Carpo, I think... whoops. Damn it. Pushed the wrong button. Carpo, I think they act on our microbiological species in our bodies. You mean the microbes or our flora, gut flora? You might be absolutely correct. Most different mushrooms do, so I'm not sure how much. All right, I'm flipping through all the comments. Hello, Keith Stone. Chris says, take a Valium and you'll come down. This is a good point. I wanted to point this out, but I don't like to recommend pharmaceuticals to anyone. But what he said is absolutely true. In fact, if you can get a hold of anything like that, it can be very useful if you're having too much and you need to relax. This is also useful with Xannies, but you know, same class. Benzodiazepines are phenomenal for that. If you can hang on to them, a lot of people are addictive personality types like myself, where you're like, I could take a Valium and have a great day. I've mentioned that I have kind of a tics, Tourettic kind of tics. I don't have Tourette's necessarily, but tics. And because of this, Valium has always helped me stop doing that. It makes me relax. It puts me in the slow lane, literally, on the freeway. Just don't give a shit. But at the same time, I don't want to not give a shit because my intensity is part of who the fuck I am, right? So I'd be a totally different person. Keith says he's tripping now. Nice. Dan says about to trip on 3.5. Nice. That's a good dose. Oh yeah, sci-fi, or what does it say? Sci-fi audacious. Sorry, I can't see very well with the names because my eyeballs are getting old. It says, do you get physically uncomfortable in the beginning? Absolutely. When I first take mushrooms, I go and I retreat back into my cave, wherever it might be. If I'm out in public or in a festival, I'll go back to my tent. I will literally leave the group, go to my tent. If you take psychedelics, don't ever be afraid to take your own time away to get back to relaxing by yourself, get into your own mental space, and when you're ready, you will come out. There have been times when I've gone into my tent at the beginning of the night, laid there, where the mushrooms were kicking in. Intense night. I took Molly. I candy flipped with Molly and mushrooms, and I was just like, oh my god, I was so content in my sleeping bag, and it was raining like crazy. It was at Soak, the festival, local Burning Man, and I was like, oh, I was so high. I was feeling so good, but then all of a sudden I noticed my feet were moving. They're like boom, 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 and I was like, okay. A couple hours later, it's time to get out. And time is very relative when you're taking those things. So it may seem like hours have passed and you've just been like away from everybody, but they don't even notice. Time is a flash for others. It's a unique experience with psychedelic substances. But the main thing is that we get something out of it. But yes. Oh, Pyramid says, one of my biggest regrets, never taking psychedelics. Too old now. You are not too old. Psychedelics are not extremely taxing on your body. In fact, there are 75, 85-year-old people who take LSD or psilocybin regularly. Some people take it for quality of end-of-life care. It helps you recognize that death is okay, that everything is a cycle. And, in the past, I'd be kind of reluctant to even say that, but I just don't care anymore because it's true. I've experienced this. Others have too. It's not about getting a doctor's diagnosis. It's about looking at the history of the psychedelics. They have been here for us. They've grown along with us. I know people will say, well, LSD is synthesized. Of course it is. but it's synthesized from ergot fungus, which grows on wheat, which grows near people, just like psilocybin mushrooms. It's a fascinating study into psychedelics. Yeah, you're never too old. Um, Inspector Pooper. All right, there's my homeboy, my harvest buddy. That's Traveler. Thinking of you, bro. I'm thinking of you. Thanks, man. I'm thinking of you too, man. Hey, Jags. Love you, Carpo. Love you too, man. I think so. I hope I love you. By the way, if any of you know Logic Only Zone, he's one of the subscribers of mine, but I subscribe to him too. And he's coming up, I think, next week to Portland. So we might hang out for a bit. If I can talk him into it, we might do like a podcast or a live video together. I think it'd be kind of cool. Answer some questions. All right, Janster, is that what it says, Janston? Uh, oh, Mandaliki. Also got a copy of the Encyclopedia of Psychoactive Plants. That's the kind of info. Glad you gave me a... All right, dude. Fuck yeah. That is a great book. That is one of my favorites of all time. You know, it's so funny because I have so many different things that I'm interested in, you know, whether it be psychedelic plants. But over the years, there was one point where I was absolutely immersed and obsessed with psychedelics and learning everything I could about them. I wanted to know how they operated, where they came from, why they were what they were. And that's what got me into the world of mushrooms and trying to figure out, why do mushrooms exist at all as far as the psychedelic version? Like, what is psilocybin used for in nature? Which led me down the path to DMT, otherwise known as DMT, or Deemsters, or Deems, dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine is an amazing substance that I cannot really talk about without first a disclaimer. Kids, don't try this at home, okay? DMT can be extracted from most plants. A majority of plants on Earth have some amount of DMT in them. Dimethyltryptamine seems to be a very common chemical. It's mostly extracted from bark of acacia trees, and I believe Banisteropsis caapi vine in the jungle, and many other sources. It's also in Phalaris wheatgrass. It's a certain type of Phalaris grass that contains a huge amount of DMT, but you can process it from nature. It crystallizes, and then you smoke it. Now, why do you smoke it instead of eating it? DMT, I should say, back up for a second. Why is it that when we eat these plants, we don't get high on DMT? This is because we have what you call monoamine oxidase. Monoamine oxidase, or MAO, is in the gut, in the body. It basically breaks down certain components of food you eat. It helps to protect you from certain things that are bad. So the answer to this problem is taking an MAOI, which I'm sure you've all heard of, an MAOI, which is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. What this does is it enters your stomach, you eat it. It can be taken in various types of seeds. There's harmala seeds or harmaline. You can smoke it or eat it, but you eat some, and about 20 minutes later, it goes, oh, tells your stomach, wait a minute, don't break down these chemicals right now. So you can eat what you want, and the DMT, you could literally eat it, and it'll break down in your stomach. If you were to eat a gram of DMT, it probably wouldn't do much to you, as far as I know, in its raw form. But if you take an MAOI, whoa, you're in for a ride. And it's important to note that most people smoke it, and it tastes horrible. As my friend Kevin calls it, it tastes like GI. He says it tastes like GI Joe guys, and I'm sure what we mean is by those figures, the little GI Joe guys we used to play with as kids, because we didn't just play with our toys. We lit them on fire and made huge bonfires and actually shot them with real guns. We were funny kids, but yeah. It smells horrible and it tastes horrible, and you have to smoke a whole bunch of it to go through the rabbit hole. But once you do, you're in a place you'll never forget. The DMT universe, multiverse, is like peeling back the reality of life. I think of it as like, you're in a car going to a destination, you have to smoke enough Smoking it, the amount of DMT you consume is like gasoline. If you do not consume enough, you do not get to your destination. You have to smoke just enough and keep smoking, and the next thing you know, you literally drop your pipe, and then you're there. You go through a tunnel. You wake up in this weird place, spiral, gnomes, galaxies, whatever it might be. There are too many stories for me to sit here and tell you what it's like, and I don't think anybody really needs it explained. It's going home. It's going back to that comfortable zone, that place that we know. I know what you're thinking. You mean heaven? No. I'm not a religious person. And in fact, I'm not an atheist either. I've watched the atheists make themselves look like complete dumbasses over the years. And I've also watched religion make itself look like dumbasses over the years. In the middle is the belief that we as individuals are part of the bigger picture. And this is what I think that these psychedelics have helped me to see. We're not bad people just because we believe something different. That borders aren't really borders. Walls don't mean a goddamn thing. That they all crumble over time, and that what really matters is brotherhood. And it seems like some utopian crap. That's fine. It is. Because, that's what the psychedelics tell people. It makes me wonder, for all those who criticize psychedelics as, oh, it just makes a bunch of hippies think that everything's wonderful. No, it makes you see the darkness that's there and want wonderful things. If you just drink alcohol all the time, you just, nothing but an alcoholic, you've never experienced anything beyond that, and you just take life as it comes, and you've never done any deep thinking or philosophy, you might be totally content to not give a shit. But there's a level of empathy that comes with taking certain substances that can't be defined. And I highly recommend people try them out. I've tried with many different people, experiences with different people. And okay, so what do we got here? I'm going to answer some more questions here. What do we got? Any thoughts on John McAfee? I don't watch mainstream media, so I don't know anything about what's going on with John McAfee. Honestly, don't. I don't know where that comes from. But I don't know, maybe you're stuck on the whole mainstream media narrative. It seems like a lot of people are. It's really funny. I don't know. I get a lot of questions. No, nothing personal to you, but a lot of people get. I don't know. They get really stuck on what they hear in the news, and it becomes their life. And I don't know. I can't do the news. I can't do the media. It's just not my thing. I guess that's another thing I've learned from psychedelics is to get the fuck away from all that bullshit. Step away from, giving a crap. All the presidents suck kind of mentality, It just doesn't matter who's in office. I don't think any of them are entitled to be there. And I've always felt that way. I think McAfee was the guy. I heard that there was something he had to do with the apartment building, but that's all I had. I don't. It's funny because when I think that a story might be controversial, I tend to just not look further into it. So I don't know. Okay, so where are we at here? Eat them microgreens. Okay, Inspector, what's up? He says, what about the DMT infused white lotus supposed by the lotus down the come up and makes the experience last longer and easier to integrate? I don't know anything about that, but I do know that I have red lotus that I sell the seeds on my website, and I got them from my guy, and my guy only sells like kind of psychotropic stuff. So I was like, what's up with the red lotus stuff? And he sold an extract. Okay, so he sent me an extract of red lotus. And this is a side note. This stuff was made from red lotus heart, which is, red lotus is also known by its Latin name as Nelumbo nucifera. Not lucifera. Nelumbo nucifera. And you take just the very heart of the seed, and it's an extremely hard seed. They grow these beautiful lotuses in the pond. I've grown them out back. And goddamn, I should be growing them right fucking now, because it's the perfect weather. But anyhow, You have to actually like grind the seeds down on a sand belt, like sandpaper, in order to get them to sprout because the seed shells are so thick they can last for like hundreds of years without sprouting. So you grind them down, throw them in there, and they sprout. But in the very heart, there's a small amount of heart. They take that heart and they put all that together. Then they extract nuciferine out of it. Then they make a nuciferine crystal powder alkaloid extract. And that's what he had. And this was the guy I was buying my kratom from for a long time as a vendor. So I was paying way high premiums from him. I've spent thousands of dollars, buying from him. So he sends me free samples. And one time he sent me a gram of this Nelumbo nucifera, nuciferine extract. So I got home and I also had some kratom extract that he sent me, like alkaloid, like 90% shit. And it's weird. I don't know. So I mixed the two. I ended up taking like half the thing of the Red Lotus extract with a bunch of other stuff. All I know is that right after that, I kind of sat back on the couch and I was just like, oh, wow. And I went into this dream state that was like being in. If you've ever had, I don't know, there's hypnagogic and hypnopompic. Hypnopompic is when you're waking up and you have dreams where you're kind of in the dream. Hypnagogic is that moment, hypnagogia, where you're falling asleep and you're not asleep but you're not awake. It's not the same as sleep paralysis, but close. It's weird. But you have these weird dreams and they can be crazy. Like, you know that you're not quite asleep, but that's where I was at for like an hour, just having these crazy psychedelic. And I could come out of it and just get up if I wanted to, but the minute I laid back down, it was like, wow, dream time. The problem was the shit was $50 a gram. I didn't know that till afterwards. I'm like, oh, I'll just take the whole thing. I was realized I'd like took the whole sample. But I've never been one to conserve. I also took 6 hits of Felix the Cat acid one time when a guy told me don't take more than one. I since I was young, I've been extremely safe. By the way, the time I took that Felix, I'm not bragging about that. I was like 18. That was the last time I took LSD for about a decade. And after I met my wife, I finally started taking it again. But it's that shit can be intense. Yeah, I know. Oh, Chris says McAfee was the antivirus software he's dead. Yeah, I know. I knew he was the software guy. I just didn't know what was going on with him. He's dead. He's not dead. Oh no, here we go. All right, Gone Another says I've done LSD, mushrooms, and DMT, all of them. The one that freaked me out the most in one experience was LSD, but I learned LSD from a bad trip, so it was okay. LSD can be intense. And if you don't know what you're taking or the micrograms, it's very difficult to gauge. If a person's going to take LSD, here's my recommendation. Find somebody who is considered trustworthy. If you have tried it before and you know it's something you want to experiment further with, find somebody that's trustworthy, buy a sheet. Don't buy a vial because if you buy a vial of LSD, it can evaporate off when you open it. The final doses can become more strong. Believe me, it happened to me. I puddled myself at a Fish concert a couple of years ago. I was giving everybody doses out of a vial, and at the end, I just like put a bunch of drops on my hand, and the drops can be different sizes. I just kind of, and it was concentrated, and I was laying on the field. It was great. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to gauge your doses, be more careful than I was, and buy a sheet of paper. Then try a half hit first. If that's successful, move on. I have always done that. Once you've tried it, you know that the rest of the sheet is good too. And it will last you years. LSD doesn't go bad, my friends. It will last decades. So don't forget that. A lot of these substances will. I mean, there's certain ones I don't know about, like say Special K. I don't know how long that lasts, and I have some, or I know somebody who has some, or an angel or a gnome that lives down the street had some. Whatever. Chris says, have you ever tried morning glories? No, I have not. Not yet. I've thought about trying that's LSA, I believe, lysergic acid amide, and I know that the nausea scares people off. I'm not really too worried about all that. I'm just not interested in taking LSA when I can take LSD. And I've said this to people in the past. I've tried, in fact, me and Inspector Pooper there tried ALLAD once, AL-LAD, and that was interesting. But when it comes to taking random chemicals, I test everything. I want to tell people this is important. We live in a day and age where you can go test anything by buying a kit online. If you can't afford to buy a kit, then you shouldn't afford to buy the substance because you need to be able to testing for multiple substances. If it's a powder, you should be testing for fentanyl. It really sucks to be able to have to do that, but it's a fact. It's just the world we live in now. It's fucked up, you know? It's like real drug talk, right? Like people don't want to face the fact that they've even put it in cocaine. Not very often. But the last thing you want to do is go to a place and take something that you don't even know what it is and find out that you just took something that's going to kill you, right? Well, I guess you won't know until you're dead. But that's another story altogether. Um, Most psychedelics are safe, at least in paper form, except for there's a couple that are really bad. And I'm not going to go into those right now. I want to stick to the good ones. But you've just got to, like, God, there's some shit out there that can make you sweat and just be sick. There's some LSD analogs that can keep you high for 24 hours, and they're very intense. The bromine shit, I can't remember what it is. Like what? Oh, fly bromine or something. But yeah, 2CB fly. But I've taken 2CB, and it was interesting. I'll just put it at that. Interesting substance. McAfee was not just okay. I'm reading comments again. I should specify that. To you too. McAfee is not a computer virus. He was into so many things, including psychedelics. He published several books on spirituality. Huh. Cool. He appears he was murdered. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? I don't care. Maybe he was. People get murdered all the time. He probably deserved it. I'm kidding, of course. Almighty Om, you're dead on LSA. It's less visual, more body load. Take LSD. There are other analogs that are better. Yeah, LSD has always been my favorite, but at the same time, okay, so I got some purple pyramids a while back. My friend gave me some, and they were purple pyramids, which are gel tabs with sparkles in them. I looked them up. I'm always curious about where the things come from. I don't buy LSD unless it comes from FAM. That may sound like arrogant, like family shit, but it's true. When you hear people say that, you need to be able to trust fam. I've got a couple people that I trust that only buy from family, and that just means it doesn't mean somebody who's the member of a family or really just goes to all the dead shows, but rather somebody who, because the dead shows really do relate to that a lot in the past. It was like, oh, it's fam, it's dead fam. It's changed, and now it just means somebody who gives a shit about their product, somebody who cares. The thing is, if you want repeat customers, you don't sell bunk LSD. I don't hear many stories about it. I don't hear many people complaining that they got bad stuff. For the most part, you're good, but you should make sure if you're ever going to try something new, paper or otherwise, make sure that somebody you know has tried it first. That may seem like guinea pig shit, but it's true. You got to make sure somebody else has tried it first. You don't want to be the guinea pig, right? If people are going to guarantee it, they should be willing to take it. Chris says, wish I could find LSD, don't have a connection in Florida. Well, you could always make it. No, I'm totally kidding. It's a pain in the ass. Back in the 60s, it was easy because after Sandoz Laboratories, first synthesized it, it was the CIA who brought it to the United States. They were the ones who popularized it and wanted to use it on the military members. And if you haven't seen the old LSD videos of U.S. soldiers, just Google LSD U.S. military Sandoz, SNDOZ. Amazing shit. It's hilarious. Basically, what the military realized is if you give soldiers LSD, you can't reprogram their minds. They reprogram their own minds and realize the military sucks, and that they joined a fucked up band of kids that don't know any better, that are fighting for a country and a cause they don't understand. And I don't mean any disrespect to veterans. I mean, World War II veterans fought a cause, right? My dad was a Vietnam veteran. Do I think he died for anything important? I mean, he died later from, and I believe, Agent Orange. He had a carcinoma in his lungs. And do I believe it was necessary for us to go to Vietnam? No. But anyway, that's a side note. Those are the kind of things you think about when you're tripping. Like, why do we fight wars? But then you realize that everybody should be thinking this way. Why aren't we all realizing this? Why don't other people see that blaming other people is bad, and that divisive religion is bad, and dogma, and believing the other guy's wrong, and the worst thing of all is believing in hell. And I hate to say that to anybody who believes in hell, but hell is perhaps the most damaging belief system anybody could have. I thought about this earlier. It's important to me to distinguish that it's not an issue I have with religion. It's an issue I have with people who believe in a place of damnation for those who they don't agree with. That to me is pathetic. But those are the things that I've seen on psychedelics. My experience has shown me that there are no gurus, for example. That I love Richard Alpert. If you're not familiar, he's also known as Ram Dass. He passed away a few years ago. He was one of my favorites. I'm not a big fan of like Timothy Leary or anything, but I was a fan of Ram Dass. He talked about taking acid and giving some to his guru Maharaji one day, and how Maharaji took like three of them, and they were gel tabs, and how the guy didn't, even trip on it. He's like, whatever, didn't even phase him. And the discussion was based on the fact that maybe this guy was so enlightened he didn't need these psychedelics anymore. And I can understand that. If you've taken enough psychedelics, you can see where a person could attain a state of enlightenment where they're always there. In other words, it's seeing through the Maya, the illusion, right? It's not that people who are taking psychedelics are hallucinating. They just see things in brighter colors. It's different. It's hard to explain. Sure, things move in the corner of your eye, but in your general vision, things might wave, but maybe that's the way it naturally is. Maybe we're meant to see waves. Maybe that's what reality is, but our conscious brains put a block on vision and make things look a certain way. I know this sounds a little far-fetched, but it's shit I've thought about for decades. I mean, it's been going over and over in my mind. Like, I don't know, hearing about all the common theories about simulated universe and everything else, it's like, yeah, whatever. When you ask people like Elon Musk, like, fuck Elon Musk. I fucking can't stand that guy. He's an idiot to me. I'm sorry. I know that there's fucking fanboys out there, but he didn't really invent anything. The electric car is nothing new. I mean, Jesus Christ, the guy brought out this tank looking car on stage, and they bragged about how strong it was, and they threw rocks at both of the windows and broke them both. I mean, this is like a complete failure of innovation. It's like, let me impress the public. But my point being that when you learn to see through shit like that, you see right through it. It's seeing through heroes, seeing through gurus, because he's no different than a guy in a white robe. To many people, Trump was the same way. I can't say Biden will ever be that way to anybody, and I don't mean to bring politics into it, but the point is, so many people look up to other people. They want to aspire to be like other people, and without seeing through the bullshit. And psychedelics help you see through the bullshit. They really do. I'd love to see our politicians take psychedelics together. I think it should be forced, mandated, that anybody who joins Congress, anybody who joins the Senate, should have to take mushrooms with the rest of the senators. In a room, all night, a locked-in session. They sure can do a lockdown session when they want to bitch at each other and not get anything accomplished, but not when they want to take mushrooms and hang around and smoke weed. I would have no problem with that if my senators sat around and took mushrooms and smoked weed. Because it sounds counterproductive. It sounds ridiculous. But it's a tool. Psychedelics are a tool. Drugs are a tool. It's not something you just consistently consume so you can hide from the world. You use them when you need to magnify your understanding in a certain zone, at least with psychedelics. That's my opinion on it. Bromo Dragonfly, yes. Um, oh, wow. The Real Folk Blues says, I know two people who died from fentanyl laced coke. Yeah, that's fucked up, man. It's peyote is killer. Yeah, I've wanted to try peyote for a long time, Chris. But at the same time, I don't. I don't really want to deal with the puking fact. But yeah. Egyptian plants? No, I do not. Just lotus. 4 ACO DMT helped me heal some serious trauma and addiction pain issues. Almighty Om. Um, Interesting. My buddy talked about that one, but I haven't tried that one yet. Sci-Fi Audacious says, I feel those can cause heavy body loads. I personally like the body load. I feel like the body load adds to the experience, and it really gives me a perspective. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry about the shaking on the camera. I got my phone like on a box. This box that I have is actually a puzzle, and it's kind of shaky. It's Prof. It's a 1,000-piece puzzle of this dude. You might not think I'm a rapper, but I love rap. I listen to all types of music. Give Prof some love. He's awesome. So I'm probably only going to be able to hang out another 10 minutes because honestly, I'm starting to sweat. I knew that would happen because it's 105 outside and my AC's in the other room and I got the door closed. It's fucking hot. YouTube. Oh yeah, Ram Dass, Be Here Now is an amazing book. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a good book. All right. Well, I think I've said what I have to say. I've got to go pretty quick. My phone says it's dying, which is perfect timing because I'm getting tired. I'm getting hot, and I'm gonna go back out there, drink a tall glass of water. Um, I don't know if anybody wants to maybe join later. I'll try to do another one, but maybe not. I don't know. Depends. I think I got my point across. There's a lot to talk about here, and a lot that can't really be said. So, at any rate, um, some of the more controversial shit I often put on my Patreon channel. I turn it into a podcast, and if y'all want to check that out, jump on over there. Peace out. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Love you.